want to make sure that we've got the right purpose for the meeting, because I think it was that we were to meet with your team, and not really your team. Not that I'm trying to make too big a distinction here, but so should we wait for these other people, or what's the?
I think we can start.
I think we'll just have to represent the interests of the national office. This threesome here.
Okay. All right. Well, yeah, these last 2 days have been bittersweet. We've had a good couple of days here, including a very good meeting, our meeting with the Prime Minister just before coming here to meet with you. But of course, we learned this morning that 6 of our staff had been killed in Pakistan and 8 injured. 1 still unconscious of those 8, and which is one of the most brazen and significant attacks on humanitarian workers in recent memory. So I'm going to be talking to the Assistant Secretary General of the UN, John Holmes, at 6:30, and just talking about, as a humanitarian community, what are we going to do as a response to this, and to express our outrage that people trying to serve the world's most vulnerable people would be exposed to these kind of risks. And obviously, it raises a number of issues for us. We've just recently dramatically stepped up our game on the whole security side, and our commitment to keeping staff safe. And this will raise all sorts of new questions for us, certainly, and especially in certain contexts in which we work. As part of my time here, I want to make myself available to the team. I speak very highly around the partnership about our global rapid response team, and about the work you do, and not just here in Haiti, but because it's an expertise that requires a learning curve, and so on. My preparation for this meeting is more around focusing on our national team and the impact a Cat 3 has on a national team, and how to think about it, how to think about transition, how to think about what life will look like 6 months, 12 months, 24 months from now, and our commitment with adjustments for changes in the context to the strategy and strategies the national team puts in place. One thing that I've said around the partnership, because I plan to initiate quite a bit of it, is that people are allergic to change. They don't like it. It creates quite a bit of uncertainty, and often a sense of being disenfranchised. That may or may not be right. It may or may not be that the change is the best thing for the big picture. But the fact is that change creates dislocation, and so people have to find their place in the new game, and have to understand whether or not they're still valued in the new game. And so, you know, Dan and Jean-Claude, I actually would like to focus on that and anything the national team has to say, if anything, on this. I have actually been reasonably well briefed on the rapid response by you, Dan, on almost weekly. And so at a high level, I have quite a good sense of it. So I don't know, I'm really struggling a little bit how best to use this meeting given the makeup of the room.
I think maybe the first 5 or 10 minutes would be useful to sort of describe kind of the first 4 weeks, you know, what the kind of the successes, what the challenges have been from a national office perspective, you know, and you know, kind of where we are now, moving kind of as of today versus kind of necessarily rehash. my view, would be that it's been an extraordinarily stressful time for the national office in its leadership capacity. Just what has happened. There's a new normal that none of us voted for. It's happened. We had a pretty exciting year. We still do. Planned with a $50 million budget. One of the larger budgets in the partnership. Lots of very engaged, extremely busy place with a developmental approach, long-term plans, and that was completely disrupted. We didn't know how long that would be, but the first, certainly within hours of the earthquake, I had relieved myself of my responsibilities. I communicated that to Paul Thomas and to the partnership, and then it was like the roller coaster ride was just starting. I don't know how many ride roller coasters. I don't like them. I used to. And so I think it's a part of our learning, a part of our journey to better understand, kind of what can we learn from the first 4 weeks, now 6 weeks, now 8 weeks. And as Kevin is part of the global, obviously the global strategy around the coordination and the integration of major partnership entities and functions, this would be part of, I would say this time is useful as a part of your seeing us work this through.
Sure.
And inputting into it, kind of as this is one dialogue of many dialogues, that we are having and needing to have. The Haiti-roundtable is part of that dialogue. So that's a setup to, I think, probably Paul in your role, from 10:42 p.m. On January the 12th onward, kind of what are our, from your perspective, our learnings, what can we observe, what are some principles that you reflect on? I'm going to put you on the spot. Is that okay?
Well, I think personally, I would like to hear Mr. Jenkins some questions of the 2 days that you spent here, what you have seen, how you see things, the thoughts you have had. I ask this because I think it's the first time in Haiti, probably the last time before a long time. So I think we need to take advantage of that and hear some of your impressions on this first visit in those very extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah. Sure, I'd be happy to do that. We've spent the entire 2 days in Port-au-Prince. So let's start by saying that the work that we've been focused here on for 32 years, we haven't visited any of it. So much more normal for me in a non-relief setting to go with some of the senior team, visit ADPs, hear about the strategies, so on. For the reasons that are obvious to everyone, we have not done that. I would also say that we've tried to split our time between, we have, as a partnership, we have a strong sense that if there's not some kind of game changer in Haiti, which is going to require leadership, vision, and coordination by the Haitian government, that a lot of money is going to get poured in and nothing much will change. So money has become not so much the constraint. As you probably know, we've raised as a partnership about $135 million for Haiti. It'll probably get to $200 million over the next short while. Spending it effectively and in coordination with others is going to be the much more challenging strategic opportunity. So we engaged with UNICEF yesterday, and at the level of these two gentlemen, I said, okay, it's fine that we're talking to each other in clusters, but you know, where are you working? Where are we working? Let's not overlap at each other. UNICEF, other than not being faith-based, which is an important difference, but they're child-focused. They're, you know, as they went through their priorities, you know, we'd be aligned almost entirely. So we also met with the head of OCHA here and our partner, the World Food Program. And our main purpose with the Prime Minister, to just finish that list of sort of external parties, was to both listen to how he's viewing these challenges and what he would, A, be interested in hearing from World Vision, and secondly, how he thinks we could contribute. I was very encouraged that the Prime Minister was highly aware of World Vision and of our commitment to this country for over 30 years. Denise Moore and I have been in a number of meetings with heads of state. They're usually basically a waste of time. We do them, they want to meet us, we go meet them. But there's very little connection, very little substance. They're working their way through a calendar. You've got your 20 minutes or your 30 minutes. At the end of the day, they might not even be able to say that they met with you. You know, they met with 10 people and can't name 5 of them or 3 of them, or I don't know how many they can name. This was completely different. And so we were both very encouraged by his respect for World Vision, his interest in our ideas, and I'd say especially Jean-Claude's and Frank Williams' ideas. I personally think it's the Maggie factor, but she's not taking credit for it. So, but well, there's something meaningfully different. So, till proven otherwise, we're going with the Maggie factor. And we expect that same high level at all future meetings in Haiti, Maggie. I say all that to say, I think we've built some bridges over these last 2 days. We built on some work that Frank and Jean-Claude had already done, but I think we made some good progress on that work. And I think it's the most likely thing to fail with Haiti going forward is that coordination work and that leadership work is done properly. And so I think we just, once you identify the most likely thing to fail, that's where you have to put a lot of effort and see where you can possibly make a difference. We also met with the head of the what's it called now? Disaster. What's it called?
Post-disaster.
PDNA, Post-Disaster Needs Assessment. Nigel Fisher. Keep wanting to call him Lawson for some reason. Nigel Fisher, who also spent 45 minutes with us, and you know, we're trying to bring the focus on the children. These people have, so we're trying to, all the things you'd expect, because they're right out of our child well-being outcomes, that children and youth would have a voice into the future of the country, that they're protected. And I think Jean-Claude, I think the Prime Minister was quite surprised by the way you talked about protection, because you just were not, you didn't start with, in fact, you didn't even get to molestation. You were talking about food security, you were talking about things that I think were quite profound, and I think he was surprised at how we view child protection. I thought it was very good. And then, of course, universal access to education and some of the health aspects that are necessary for a child to be properly educated. I have not had enough exposure to our staff to have an informed view about the effectiveness of our work here. I have actually been, in the last 6 months, I don't know, maybe in 20 World Vision projects. So I actually have a pretty good sense of what looks like a good project and what looks like not such a good project. But I've not been in any development projects in Haiti. And so I don't have a view there particularly. This is my first Cat 3. And so as I'm coming in to see the setup, which we spent the morning looking at with the food distribution, our warehouse, the tent village where we had wash, and so on. It looked, and we're doing that in partnership with a local NGO. It looked well set up to me, but I'm not really an expert observer. So sometimes when people hear the president's coming, things get well set up. In any event.
We wanted you to see it firsthand, not it was not set up.
Okay.
Actually, we changed locations a number of times.
There
Where
you
we
go.
went was not supposed to be the location where we.
You gotta believe me. Nobody had any one. I have appreciated the relationship between Frank and Jean-Claude, and the working relationship, the dynamic that you're thrown into, and I'm sure it was initially between the two of you in a Cat 3. One of the things that strikes me, so I've been on this huge learning curve myself as president, and kind of had my lips around a fire hose trying to drink the water here for the last 6 months. It's not how I cut my lip. I fell to cut my lip, but it's a possible explanation. In fact, I would consider it as the story going forward. But one of the things I've observed in our partnership is a national office will attempt to categorize their emergency in the lowest possible way.
That's right.
Why? Because you keep the most possible control with the lowest possible category. Unfortunately for the Haiti earthquake, there was no real decision to be made. But we do see this, and it's something that I'm focused on, and trying to make sure that we introduce some objectivity to in our partnership. This is not a place for games, even though sometimes games are played. For all we have these categories in place for very specific reasons. So my exposure to our World Vision Haiti staff has been extremely limited. I met them in the devotion time. We had a few questions, and otherwise I expect I've mainly met people from the rapid response team or people that have been Haitians who have been hired to assist in the relief operation. All of which I have been very impressed with. And and I would say that having just come from the PRC last week, we had Dan and Karina briefing us on this situation, and comments from the PRC, which you probably heard from some individuals, or maybe not everybody in the room, but Dan has certainly heard already directly from some individuals. There are some things about the initial stages of this response that we want to learn from. By many measures, this is the most difficult Cat 3 we've ever had. Certainly, everyone would agree it's by far the most difficult since the tsunami. But it's different from the tsunami. We've got a major city taken out here. The government's taken out. The UN was largely taken out. On and on and on. And World Food Program told us yesterday that the senior individual that we met with there, that this is the most difficult situation the World Food Program has been in its history. 50-year history, I think he said. So anyway, let's argue, is it the worst or the second worst? It doesn't matter. It's bad, and it's one of the worst ever. And so whenever you're in that kind of dynamic, You're going to learn that some of your processes aren't suited for that. You don't prepare for all that kind of thing. And we are an unwise organization if we don't learn from it. And I strongly feel that that learning is not about pointing fingers or blame or at people. It's looking at processes. It's learning for the future. It's sort of one of these things where there's a lot of expense goes into a lesson like this. So let's make sure we use the lesson looking ahead and not waste our time analyzing what people did in a real-time situation under big pressure with the information they had at the time. And listen, mainly the comments are hugely positive. So I am talking about learning on the periphery, doing better, taking it from an 8 to a 9.5, as opposed to any sense that there was not a very positive and effective response here. And as you know, this response has been under a huge spotlight, and we've raised, as I've already said, an incredible amount of money around the world. I happen to be, where did I happen to be? I happen to be right after this. I happen to be in India, Australia, New Zealand, and amazed. I got reports, still get reports daily of what we're raising around the world for this. Amazed how much money is being raised in Asia and in Australia and New Zealand. I mean, these people couldn't even tell you where Haiti is. Really, they couldn't. It's not so amazing out of Canada and the United States, where there's proximity and major connections. I would say at a deep level, I am very impressed with the Haitian people. Obviously, I'm just getting an initial sense of them, but as I hear how our board members position the Haitian people, as I watch them at various levels, the very most disenfranchised lining up for food to we've been driving around the streets and listening to how the Prime Minister talks about the people of this country. With leadership, I think this game could be changed. I really do. My initial impressions are very positive. I'm probably unaware of many of the dynamics, and that's things that I maybe will learn about going forward. But I do think that as we think about our relief and development work, and when it comes together, there's always going to be, those are always the areas that are going to take more time to figure out how to be more effective when that occurs. Especially, I don't know that this is a great analogy, but in the world that I've come from. So I was CEO of 2 or 3 different organizations over the last 20 years. We had, the team that I worked with was the operating team. We were experts at operating. If we wanted to buy another company, the operators wanted to be the ones to buy the company. That always went badly. It was not their expertise. And so we eventually sped up a special team that got up the learning curve. They did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They'd seen it many times. And that's the approach we've taken at World Vision to relief. We've said that there's a group of experts that need to come and work with the national office, and that depending on the level of category and the context, that working relationship needs to get worked out in real time. And so we're in week 8. I hope you're finding that the relationship's getting better. I'm interested to hear. I don't know how challenging it was, but there's an aspect of this where it's not a time to get on the learning curve when you're right in the midst of one of the top 3 disasters we've been in for 50 years. And so, listen, I can feel the tension in the partnership around this. And one of the best examples of it is what I've already mentioned, that everybody wants to be a Cat 1 or a Cat 2. Yet, if we're going to, the reality is that one of the most respected pieces of World Vision is our rapid response capabilities. And so, that's a very long answer to your short question.
But it's good.
Since Kevin is going to be leaving in a few minutes, I actually want to add some of my own perspective to what I've seen here, but
Yep.
I don't want to take up your time
Okay.
because you only have a few minutes left.
Okay, so he'll talk after I leave. Go ahead.
Yeah, actually, just before you leave, Maggie and I were thinking about a couple of messages that we wanted to communicate. Actually, we never got around to to agree on what the messages would be. So I'll go from conversations we
Great,
had
yeah.
over the past month. One is speaking for the national staff, national leadership, is that we don't want to focus on so much on emergency response. And I don't know if you observed during the visit of the city that the city actually has come alive.
I did notice
And
that.
I think it's Liz who was mentioning to me when she first came that she was surprised how alive the people were, because in other circumstances like this, she usually find the people sitting in the corner waiting for manna to fall from heaven. And this is not the case here. And the people have been rebuilding their lives on January 13th. And that's what we want to focus on rebuilding their lives right away. So that is, we don't want to spend a lot of time in long lines of food distribution. It is extremely essential right now, okay? But as quickly as possible, just like the people do, as they stand on the rubble, they start doing it. And that's one thing we want to do also.
And definitely see the city alive, see the resilience of the Haitian people, see a lot of people moving rubble, not very far, move it here, move it here. they're moving it all over the city. The Prime Minister commented on exactly what you've just said, that day 1 or 2, I mean, he probably didn't say January 13th, but he said, people were quite dazed for the first couple of days, and that they have moved well past that. And the second thing I'd say is, Paul, that I think is really important is the government strongly agrees with what you're saying. The president was meeting with President Obama today saying, we need to get our own food back going again. You will hurt us, and the Prime Minister repeated that message with us today, that we need, and I think they're a little bit black and white about it. There's probably more transition aspect to it than maybe they understand, or if they, I don't know if they understand or don't understand it, but you can't just say stop sending food, which I think is what the president said yesterday, but that probably doesn't work exactly. But nevertheless, very, very important. And listen, we don't want to take we want to be about building on what Haitians have done and what we've been working on here for 30 years, not just pour $135 or $200 million down a relief hole, not at all. Okay, so and then the second thing.
I forgot you, so
Okay. What's my timeline? Okay.
I remember if you don't remember.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, the other one I have in mind, again, is in reference to something we said about every country office rating the disasters at Cat 1 or Cat 2. I'd like maybe if we had the choice, after January 12th, we might have rated Cat 2 also.
We would have overruled that, but worth a try. I mean, you might as well try.
We didn't have a choice.
No.
The first positive thing I want to say is thank God for the rapid response team. And I've had occasions to say that, not just here, but to my colleagues and friends elsewhere. I think we are one of the few organizations that can actually do that. Have people on the ground like the next day, basically. And I kind of brag about it, you see, in a way, not only for the rapid response, but for the network that we have in Haiti. We can do things that many other organizations, that most other organizations, that you saw the logos today on the cars we pass on the streets, cannot do. Right. So to me, that's a big subject of praise. The other thing, which is not so positive, but it's not negative either, is that the national team wants to stay engaged. Yeah. It's not that it is not engaged. Engaged in the sense that this is our country. It's a country that's down on its knees and needing to be rebuilt, and I hope rebuilt fast. Okay? So I think it's important for the nationals, our board, the national leadership, our senior management, our middle management, to be very engaged in the strategic decisions that the partnership makes. I'm not talking just about the rapid response team. I'm talking about the partnership makes on how we help rebuild this country. And we help rebuild it starting today, or starting a month ago. That moving from relief to development is not just a cliche for us. It is real. We want to stay engaged. The decisions we make today in our relief will impact what we do in recovery, what we do in reconstruction. But actually, now I remember.
Sorry, just before that was the second thing. That was the preface to the second thing. But just to respond to the preface briefly. First of all, I think after I leave, in addition to comments Denis may have, it may be helpful, Dan, for you to talk about, or Jean-Claude, kind of what you've learned, how you've, whatever your aspirations are, what you've learned about working with national offices, and what we're doing better than we used to, and what we still need to do better than we're doing today. But I just want to strongly, first, I really appreciate the spirit you raised this issue in. It's a positive spirit. I want to assure you that the national office strategy, which I'm sure will need some amending, but was a good strategy for the context that we had prior to January 12th. And the national office staff, it's part of who we are at World Vision, given our federal model, given a number of aspects of the way that we're governed. And I'd say, in addition, that it's not an area where the rapid response team wants to have, they probably have some views, but I would be surprised if all were not deferring to the national team as to the way forward for the medium and long term. And so we need to just make sure that that voice, the national team voice and leadership, is properly fed into that process. Your last thing, which is going to be my last thing.
Yeah,
There's no way to say no to that. Oh, yeah, exactly.
All he could. But I spent a good bit of my time, I feel like, defending the Haitian government, which is wrong because often they don't deserve to be defended. Secondly, they don't pay my check. World Vision does. But that is to say that I am grateful and thankful that my sense is, on some level, World Vision understands how important it is to engage with the government. Mm-hmm. That's not always a given, and I'm thrilled to see that. Mm-hmm. To join what Paul was saying, Haiti will not be successful if we don't have a working government, a functioning government. I mean, more than education even, more than immunization records, certainly more than food and nutrients, excuse the expression, more than anything else, if the government does not do its job, right, then we cannot really do ours. Right. So that's a big plug for advocacy, because that's one really effective way. I know that advocacy has had a role in the response, but I just want to both encourage. I want to say thank you for that, but really kind of cement that and encourage that, because that doesn't mean we do what they want us to do, or we glorify them and praise them when they don't deserve it. But we need to stay engaged with the government, and we have a long history of that here. Certainly at the local level, my colleague Sonette has been doing that for 2-3 years now, and that's actually coming in very handy right now in the regions. So I wanted to say that.
So that's an important thing to say, Maggie. I am a huge champion of advocacy, global and national. I spoke to it quite a bit last night with the board, and we can test you to see if you were listening or not. Not right now because I'm leaving, but if, or Denis can talk to it. But if you want to expand on some of the specific advocacy things we talked about for.
The board went there very quickly.
They did. Very similar path. Paul.
Yeah, well, the last thing is about the call you're going to make right now, the Pakistani tragedy. It's something we've been talking about. I don't know the Pakistani situation. Liz told me about the tragedy this morning. And immediately, maybe selfish, I saw us. It could have been us. I mean, not just the Haitian staff, but all of us here around the table. And in this situation that we are here in Haiti right now, we are exposed. We are exposed first to criticism because there are a lot of attacks, verbal attacks on the NGOs, and because everybody is saying, the government is saying, Mr. Preval has said that. A lot of criticism.
The Prime Minister started today by saying, when I attack NGOs, I don't mean World Vision. So he said, could you say that every time? But he said, that's how he started, right?
Very good. That's what we want to hear.
That's how he started.
And it's what we want to hear. It's what we want to preserve. I think the quality of the work that we do, the visibility, yes, but the visibility of the quality of the work that we do. I want to hear my friends, my colleagues, the government say exactly what the Prime Minister said. Okay? Yes, we are talking about NGOs. I even want the people in the streets, if they ever decide, which they might, and I'm not kidding, to violently attack NGOs, that the logo of World Vision on the vehicle will protect me and not make me a target. And I think it's important that we insist on this level of quality, the dignity with which we provide the assistance that we provide.
And my guess would be that in the areas where we've been working, Central Plateau, et cetera, that in fact that would be the case, that the World Vision logo would be a respected logo that would...
And it has in the past.
Unfortunately, in Port-au-Prince, we're not as well known.
That's right.
And so whether people would be able to distinguish between us and other NGOs at this stage is probably not. So I am going to have to jump onto this call, but I'm very afraid to leave you alone with the chair of the board. But
I'm going to tell you the truth.
No, I'm not afraid to do that at all. And I do think it's worth, after Denis has made some comments, and obviously he can fully engage. I think it's worth you're not, have this opportunity with your team and the national team, and to try and, if there are some specific things to knock down, to do it. All right. Over to you.
Thank you.